This is a message to the youth of South Africa and most importantly to the organizers of the event planned for the 24th of September. I am 100% on board with the end to corruption in South Africa, but I urge you to watch this video, please.
Tiana, Khadijah, Lenny Carvel, him, her, him, bodies. They're all dead.
Change is desperately needed, but my fear is becoming for the youth and the police and everyone that is going to put themselves on the line for this protest, especially when I see videos like this from the organizers.
On the 24th of September, we're having a National Youth March. If you are in Pretoria, you're going to meet the people at the Union Building. Cape Town, same applies. These are some of the tips that I have. Wear all black so that you don't stand out. Wear something that covers your tattoos, your ears, as well as this bridge. Maybe put on some makeup. Have a water bottle with water in case you or your partners or the people you'll be working with get pepper sprayed. Pepper spray is very painful. Water rinses it out. Carry it. Disable location services on your phone if you're going to take your phone along. If you don't take it along, write important numbers somewhere on your body whereby it won't be erased. If you decide to take videos of the protest, ensure that you blur out faces of the people who will be protesting with you. Layer up clothing to protect yourself from rubber bullets. Do not post yourself at the location of the protest because police will arrest you if they find out you were there. Disable face lock and fingerprint lock so that if you are bringing your phone along to take videos, when the police arrest you, they will force you to unlock your phone. Passwords are safer than fingerprint and face lock. They will force you to unlock your phone. Disable those features. Do not wear sandals, wear boots or techies. If you're going to be at the back when police start shooting, do not panic. You will scare the people who are at the front lines. The people who are at the front lines are the ones who are supposed to move away when the police start shooting. The people who are going to be frontliners, ensure that you have heat-proof gloves so that when they throw the gas canisters at you, you can pick them up and throw them back at the police. Have a face mask or a bandana so that when they start shooting tear gas, you have something to, cover yourself with. The safety goggles that the construction workers were wearing, if you can get maybe 5 pairs and you're going to be in the front line so that you can pass on to the other people who are going to be in the front lines, this will help them be protected from the tear gas. If you decide to carry a backpack, ensure that there's water, snacks, a scarf, saline solution, goggles, scarf, or earplugs.
I need you to remember that the police and the army who is going to handle this protest are not the enemy. They're in the same position as you. They go home where their families have no water, they experience load shedding. They are not your enemy. Please ensure that what this protest is about is strictly about the end of corruption with our government and not against the police. We do not need this in South Africa. What happened in Nepal was appalling. And yes, everyone sees that it was a revolution, but this is the consequence of that revolution. And burning infrastructure that we all need in this country will not benefit this country.
South Africa, I did a video yesterday talking about strategy, and I'm not happy with the suggestions you guys put there. You guys are talking about burning stuff and closing down stuff. We say we are the educated generation. Let us reflect that in the strategies and the ways that we go about bringing change. So here's the strategy.
For those who haven't been following the growing momentum online, September 24th, our Heritage Day, has been chosen as the date for a national peaceful protest across South Africa. Young South Africans are organizing through social media and change.org petitions, demanding action on the issues that define our generation's struggle, crippling youth unemployment that sits above 60%, the epidemic of gender-based violence and femicide that claims a woman's life every 3 hours, and what many see as failed leadership from President Ramaphosa and an aging government that seems disconnected from the realities facing young people. The organizers are using the rallying cry, "Enough is enough, South Africa, rise up." And they are calling for mass demonstrations in major cities. Some are even demanding the resignation of all government officials over 65, arguing that our leadership is too old to understand or solve the problems of a young democracy. The choice of Heritage Day is symbolic, a day meant to celebrate our shared identity, being used to demand a shared future that actually works for the majority of South Africans who are under 35 years old. This isn't just another political protest, it is being framed as a generational uprising, part of a broader wave of young activism that swept across Africa in 2024, from Kenya to Ghana to Nigeria, as young people demand accountability from leaders who inherited liberation movements but haven't delivered liberation from poverty, corruption, and violence. My brothers and sisters, I see your anger. I feel your frustration. September 24th approaches, and your hearts burn with the righteous fire of change. You want to march, you want to shout, you want to make them hear you. But before you take to the streets, let me share some uncomfortable truths that might save your cause and possibly your lives. Because here's what they won't tell you in those passionate online calls to action. The government doesn't give a damn about your protests. They've weathered countless marches, they've absorbed endless chants, and watched thousands of angry young faces blur past their office windows. To them, you are noise. You are background static in their comfortable corridors of power. President Ramaphosa and his aging cabinet have seen it all before. They've perfected the art of riding out storms, of making token promises while changing nothing fundamental. They know that if they just wait long enough, the crowds will disperse, the media will move on to the next story, and life will return to their version of normal. But, and this is crucial, they will start caring the moment you become a threat to their legitimacy, their international reputation, or their economic interests. The question is, how do you become that threat without destroying yourselves and your spirit in the process? Here's where most movements die. The moment that first rock flies through a window, the moment that first tire catches fire, you have lost. Not on the moral high ground, though that matters, but something far more valuable. You've lost public support and international credibility. The state is waiting for you to break something. They want you to loot. They want you to burn, to give them the perfect excuse to unleash the police, to paint you as criminals rather than citizens with legitimate grievances. Every broken window becomes a news headline that drowns out your message. Every burning tire becomes evidence that you are part of the problem and not the solution. Think about it strategically. When buildings burn, what dominates the news cycle? Your demands for employment opportunities? Your cries for justice against gender-based violence? Of course not. The story becomes violent protesters destroy property, and all of a sudden your message dies in the smoke. If you truly want the end of destruction in our society, the destruction of our economy through corruption, the destruction of our safety through crime, the destruction of our future through unemployment, then you cannot promote destruction as your method. The medium is the message, and violence as a medium sends the message that you are no different from those you oppose. But here's what the old guard does not understand. The world has moved online. The real battles for hearts and minds happen on smartphones, not in the streets. While they're preparing riot police for physical crowds, you could be building digital movements that span continents. Consider this. A well-crafted video can reach millions in hours. A coordinated hashtag campaign can trend globally. A strategic social media movement can attract international attention, media coverage, and, most importantly, economic pressure that governments actually fear. The most successful modern movements understood this. They didn't march, they live streamed, they documented, they shared, they built digital communities that gained momentum long after any single protest on the streets ended. Create content that tells your stories. Show the unemployment lines. Document the femicide statistics. Film the corruption. Make it impossible to ignore, not through a volume of noise on the streets, but through volume of truth online that becomes impossible to suppress or dismiss. If you are determined to make September 24th meaningful, consider these approaches. A digital shutdown. Instead of marching, coordinate a massive online presence. Flood social media with your stories, your demands, your evidence. Make hashtag September 24 SA trend globally. International media attention will be gained not through chaos, but through determination. Give an economic statement. Organize consumer boycotts of business that support corrupt practices. Money talks louder than marching ever will. Target specific companies, specific policies, specific spending patterns. Hit them where they actually feel it, their wallets. Documentation projects. Turn September 24th into a massive citizen journalism day. Document every example of government failure, every broken promise, every instance of the problems you are protesting. Create an undeniable record that can't be spun or suppressed. The skills showcase as well. So instead of demanding jobs, demonstrate other capabilities, organize massive skill sharing events, start cooperative businesses, show the country that young South Africans can build even when not given the chance. Make them see what they are wasting when they ignore you. Real change does not happen in a day, not even Heritage Day. It happens through sustained pressure, strategic thinking, and building actual power rather than just expressing anger. Register voters, document corruption, build alternative economic structures, create media that can't be controlled by the state, form cooperatives, start businesses, run for local office. These are the actions that create lasting change. The government can wait out a protest. They can't wait out a generation that has decided to stop spending on them for solutions. On September 24th, you have a choice. You can give them exactly what they expect. Angry crowds that they can dismiss, disperse, and forget. Or you can surprise them with something they are not prepared for. Strategic, sustained, intelligent resistance that builds rather than destroys. Your grievances are valid. Your anger is justified. Your demands are reasonable. But your methods will determine whether you become a footnote in history or the generation that finally changed South Africa's trajectory. The old ways of protest belong to an old world. We live in a new world now, one where influence is digital, where power is networked, and where the smart outlast the loud. Make them care not by breaking their windows, but by building alternatives they can't ignore. Make them listen not by burning their cities, but by creating better versions they can't compete with. September 24th can be the beginning of real change, but only if you are smart enough to fight the war for South Africa's future on the battlefield where you can actually win. Let me be brutally honest about something we all witnessed. The hashtag Free Zuma protests of 2021 were a masterclass in how to not create change. What started as political expression devolved into chaos that destroyed over 40,000 businesses, cost our economy 50 billion rand, and left 354 people dead. The looters didn't just steal goods from malls, they stole every credibility from any future protest movement in this country. They handed the government and the media the perfect narrative. Protesters are criminals who destroy their country and their own communities. 4 years later, we are living with that damage. The international community, watched in horror as South Africans burned down their neighborhoods. And that image, not the legitimate grievances behind the initial protests, is what the world remembers. Every time you plan a demonstration now, skeptics point to those burning shopping centers and ask, how do we know hashtag Free Zuma won't happen again? Because the hashtag Free Zuma chaos didn't do anything to anyone or didn't fix anything. In fact, if it did do anything to anyone, it did bad. It showed all youth activism as destructive mob behavior. September 24th cannot become another July 2021. The moment even one person throws a rock, breaks a window, or loots a spaza shop, your entire movement becomes about that rock, that window, that theft. Not about unemployment, not about gender-based violence, not about the future you are fighting for. The media will spend more time covering property damage than policy demands. International observers will write you off as another example of African instability, rather than seeing you as the young citizens who demand better governance. Learn from that disaster. Learn that violence doesn't create respect, it creates dismissal. Chaos doesn't generate solutions, it generates excuses for the state to ignore you even more completely. The government learned from 2021 as well. They know exactly how to respond to riots, how to deploy the military, and how to spin the narrative in their favor. They are not prepared for disciplined, intelligent pressure that builds power instead of burning it down. The choice is yours. It is indeed at this moment we should ask for the hand of the Almighty God, because the country has truly reached a point where the young people don't see themselves as having much of a choice, but to take to the very streets they feel the most unsafe in. I also recommend we all take this moment to pray to the patroness of our nation, Our Lady herself, Mary, the Mother of God, the Blessed Virgin Mary. That way, although we may not be sure of what direction the country is headed towards, but we are damn sure we are doing something about it. God bless South Africa, and like always, I'll see you next time.